The title is Get Back on Track Health Seminar. The reason I titled it that is because all of us fall off track. Did you know that? Did you know I fall off track? Everybody looks at me and goes, oh, he eats perfectly. No, I don't. Just ask my wife and kids. We fall off track. And so the key is, that's really should be encouraging, you just get back on. Don't stay stuck in a cycle of defeat and failure. And I can never master this. I always keep falling. I keep messing up. I keep gaining weight. My health is always an issue. Get back on track. Because what happens is most people allow that to become a stumbling block and not a stepping stone. So just so you know, many of you don't know this, but I have a background in health and fitness, back working with 24-hour fitness as a district manager, and I helped a lot of weight loss clients. And the majority, I'm going to say all of them, but you never say all. Nobody ate perfectly. Nobody did things perfectly, and that's how they achieved their goals. All of them got up when they fell down, and they kept moving forward. So that's how you're going to succeed, is you get back up when you fall down. Also, I want to get this point across before I start. Don't be obsessed. Don't get obsessed in this area. Trust God, not good health. Because if I can eat this or do this, and we're trusting in our health, we're trusting in food, and it's all good. It's good to be good stewards of our bodies, but ultimately we have to trust in God. Because I have lost friends, so have you, even younger than me, who are healthier than me. So it's not this bulletproof, gonna live forever approach. It's being good stewards of what God has given us, whatever that means. So it's not focused on health and eating perfectly and measuring, is that exactly an ounce? And I've got to do this perfectly. I saw a t-shirt and I had to read this to you. It said, for every cigarette you smoke, God takes an hour away from your life and gives it to Keith Richards. That guy defies all of everything I'm going to talk about this morning. He defies all of that. So there are exceptions, but don't bend the rules just because there are exceptions. So that's kind of the context. I'm just going to go through some quick points here. Quick meaning it could go really long, but I'm just going to try to get to the point of the major things, the major ways I can help you get back on track, and letting you know up front, I cannot cover everything. There's so much to this topic, but I can point you in the right direction, and I know people that can help as well. Number one, the first point I want to get across is this. You have to make physical fitness a spiritual priority. Physical fitness is actually a spiritual priority. Many people don't understand this. And I think this is ironic because I do get, even yesterday, a Facebook message. You need to be focusing all your time on the gospel, and exclamation points. And I said, that's what I do 95% of the time. But Jesus also went around healing and teaching and helping and ministering. It's part of who we are. We are to help people in all areas of life. It's not the main focus, and there are spiritual benefits. When you take care of this, do you not feel better even spiritually sometimes? Now, obviously, there are people even watching right now, I know I've sent this to them, that are in bed. Spirit-filled believers have been sick, cannot get out of bed for years sometimes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those who can make a difference. We know when we have this area in line, self-discipline, a fruit of the Spirit, it affects us spiritually. When the body's feeling better, when we're making right decisions physically, it flows off into our spiritual decisions often. And conversely, when we're doing good spiritually, we want to take care of our body. It's a gift that God has given us. So it doesn't take away from being disciplined spiritually. It actually adds to it. Because people say, I don't have time for that, Shane. I just have time to pray and do God's will. Well, did you know that if you take care of what He's given you and become disciplined in this area, it will actually make you a more effective Christian in ministry, in life in general, in devotional times? I mean, I've talked about this before, and I'll cover this maybe again, but many years ago when I was drinking a lot more coffee, I was 30 pounds heavier, it affected my spiritual life. I did not want to minister as well. I couldn't preach as well. And I could tell a big difference when you started to get the body, like Paul says, bring it into subjection. Don't let it control you. You control it. So it does affect us spiritually. It's not the focus, Spiritual health is the focus. That's the foundation. But I have a hard time believing that when we get fit spiritually, we shouldn't care about our body that God has given us. This wonderful gift that where we actually are the hand and feet of Christ in this body. That's how we minister. That's how we do things. And remember this, a priority is not a fad diet or a New Year's resolution. This has to be a priority. This lifestyle is a priority. And then you can accomplish it. But what do? Well, 30 days I'll try this, and for 2 weeks I'll do this, and then I'll get on this, and then it's not a priority, it's a fad diet. And I saw a Facebook post, it was funny, people were like, this year my resolution is this. A lot of good, strong coffee and a lot of good, strong wine. But then after that she said, and I want to work on my anger and anxiety. You got to make a decision. It's got to be, what's the priority? So coming into this, make sure you understand that it's not a fad or a short-term thing. It has to be, okay, I'm committed to living healthier. Not perfect, but living healthier. And it will filter into all areas of your life. Because what we're seeing today, many of you know, the diabetes, cancer, obesity is skyrocketing in young adults and kids. And a long-term, this is a long-term problem. A short-term solution isn't going to fix that. So we get on this, there's 37 million things come up for the ketogenic diet search. 37 million things come up when information on that. And people are searching, and if I could just do this, and if I could just do this, but just say, okay, Lord, I need help. This needs to be a priority. Because it also affects how our children grow up. What type of discipline are we giving to them? Are we giving them being overweight and obese and diabetes at a young age? And it's for me, it's hard to see type 2 diabetes in young adults, children that are still living at home, because that is a dietary-related disease. Type 1 is not. You have to take insulin because your body's not producing it. But type 2 is diet-related. And people say it's a progressive disease. Not necessarily. Many who say that want to keep medicating the disease. But it's not progressing. You can stop it. In my fasting book, Feasting and Fasting, there are free downloads, I think in the comment section or in the description section on Facebook. But also we should have free copies here as well. I recommend a book in there. I think it's Dr. Jason Fung. Sometimes I'm careful because obviously he talks about evolution in it, which I thoroughly disagree with. Looking at how the body is made, it screams creator. I mean, evolution is not even in the ballpark. It's absurd. But a lot of good information because his whole practice is getting people off of diabetes through nutrition. That's what he does. He's seen the down. He goes, we kept giving them insulin, we kept giving them this, and they kept having more problems and more problems. Why am I giving them the drug that causes weight gain? And that's what insulin does. Insulin is good and God-given in the right form, but what it does, it's the hormone that leads to fat storage. More sugar, more insulin, more fat storage. And then there's another hormone that actually works against that we'll see in a little bit. So being a good steward of the gift that God has given us, it has to be a priority. And I mentioned this earlier, training our children in the way they should go. What about your grandchildren? Just Google the effects of sugar. YouTube videos, it's alarming. And I think what we're seeing today, the epidemic in attention deficit disorders, which are often neurological, it's a missing of something going on in the brain, the neurotransmitters and different things. It's because a lot of these things that we're consuming, artificial flavoring, artificial coloring, aspartame, sodium nitrate, these are chemicals. And they affect the brain at a very deep level and the body. It's common sense. And this is like the tobacco industry knows now, but they didn't know 100 years ago. We know that these things are not good. So we have to train our children in the way they should go. So I also want to offer some helpful resources. If you're watching online, you can watch a video called Self-Control in an Addicted World. It's a message I gave last Sunday. It'll help you in this area. Self-Control in an Addicted World. We also have a whole bunch of CDs of that message that you can grab as you're walking out. And I did a message a year ago, Health, what does the Bible say? What does the Bible say? And a fasting forum for about an hour and a half. I did it about a year ago. All of that's on YouTube. So that will help you start to bring in these pieces because I can't share all of that and also get together, move forward with this new information. Now, if you're watching on Facebook, remember to hit the share button. Hit the share button often. We want to get this out. We want to help people. And I'm going to take a water break now and then. I'll tell you what's in it later, maybe. So number one, that's the foundation. Okay, this is a priority. I've fallen off. I've drifted. Maybe this is just a reinforcement for you, like it is for me. It is a priority in my life. Don't walk that straight and narrow all the time, but that has to be the foundation. Because I've seen so many people, okay, how are you doing with New Year's resolutions? Let's just try this out. We're 5 days in. Is everyone succeeding, or the New Year's resolutions falling to the wayside? Some people succeeding, some, and willpower can get you a little distance, but majority of New Year's resolutions fail, right? Because it's a short term. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. It's not a foundational priority. And I mentioned at the Sunday service that I used to work at 24 Hour Fitness. And do you know what month was our best month? That's right. You get and you sign up all those people, automatic EFT, electronic funds transfer. You get all the monthly payments that I'm paying right now too. And the gym I left that I opened 18 years ago was at $140,000, $150,000 a month they're collecting from automatic debits. Now the big one over there in Lancaster, I'm sure is at $400,000 a month in automatic debits. Because people don't use it as much as they would like to. So that's why this is so important. Okay, this is a priority in my life. It's not an afterthought. It's something I'll get to. It's the priority. We have to take care of this gift that God has given us. So the next point then is this. We must be well informed. Where do you get your information from? Don't get your information, for example, about coffee from Starbucks. Don't get information about statin drugs from your physician. Don't talk to your pediatrician about vaccines. Where do you get information from? Now, you can ask for feedback, get their suggestions and different things, but you need to look at somebody who doesn't have a vested interest in what you're about to do. Are they selling you a diet? Are they selling you a lap belt? Put something on and watch it just melts away. I've seen these ads. Look, it just melts away. Where'd the calories go? How did the fat turn into nothing? How'd the body convert? Where'd it go? Look at these pills, 30 pounds in 30 days. Now there's cocaine in those pills. If you're going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days, where are you getting your information from? Okay, this is going to get me in a little bit of trouble. It's okay. I actually got an email from Pepsi or Coca-Cola a few years ago that said, not all of our stuff is bad, and they rebuked me. But the majority of diets, foods, industry, all that, they're in it for the revenue, not your health. That's the bottom line. So what comes first then? Revenue. That's why all these products are slipping by the FDA. The FDA is not a group that can regulate anymore. Now they're reactionary. Now they'll react to concerns. They can't regulate all these different things that are going on. So we have to look at, okay, am I well informed? Where am I getting my information from? So I'm going to focus on 4 areas: what we put in our body, and our spiritual and physical environment in this first section right here. Number 1, in our body. Do you know this, that cancer, it's 1 in 3 I think it affects, and most people, most physicians, and I would agree, would say that all of us have the ability to form cancer in our bodies. It's just a cell that doesn't stop multiplying, and something in the DNA and the genes have switched. There's something that's not working. The signal that should be going out to kill it is not, and it's multiplying. And all of us can be susceptible to that. But they're finding that cancer and all this stuff, double check it if you'd like, make notes. I said, I've got to double check that. I don't know about that. Look into this. They're finding that cancer is not as much genetic as they thought, it's metabolic. Now that's important because genetics means it's in your genes. And it's good to, if your mom had this, your dad had this, there could be a pattern there from the chromosomes and different things, absolutely. But they're finding it's more metabolic, and that word metabolic comes from metabolism, meaning the breakdown of food in our body, how our body assimilates and creates energy. So they're seeing that this is somehow affected by metabolic processes. In 1927, Otto Warburg noticed that cancer cells consumed up to 200 times more glucose than normal cells. I think it's called what was his first name again? Warburg theory or something. You can look at that too. 200 times. In other words, we know that sugar and oxygen will feed cancer cells many times. Now, the cancer is interesting because there's hundreds of different diseases. That's why it's so hard. You can't just, okay, here's the cure. Well, what about pancreatic cancer? Well, the pancreas, what about liver cancer? What about brain? It's neurotransmitters. And you can't get your hand around because something is happening. Something is falling apart. Now, I don't know if you know this, but in the 1800s, how many teaspoons do you think we had of sugar? Average on a person? A day. Yeah, 5 or 6 teaspoons. Any guess at the national average? 56. 56 teaspoons. See, that's impossible. Be informed. My wife just brought something home. Look, I found this healthy something. I don't remember what it was exactly. So I look on it, and it's these little snacks, 4 grams in each snack. So there's a teaspoon of sugar. And then these yogurt pops, but they're organic, okay. 8 grams of sugar. So my kids just had 3 teaspoons of sugar. Right there with whatever this is. But it says USD approved organic, non-vegan, or vegan, GMO-free, gluten, But look at the ingredients. Be informed. What's the sugar content? Ketchup. A teaspoon of sugar in my ketchup? And a little bit of ketchup. So we look at these things, and we have to back up a little bit and say, okay, I need to make some changes. And they have identified many carcinogens and cancer-causing agents in food. What a carcinogen is it's something that affects the cell at a very deep level, and it begins to damage the cell, and the cell responds in such a way to start to produce that cancer cell. So they know this. There are carcinogens in food. There's also carcinogens that, of course, you're aware of, like smoke, diesel fuel, diesel smoke, and things that we shouldn't be breathing that can add to that as well. But I'm not trying to get convicting, but let me just give you some examples. Are you ready? All I did, so you don't feel like I'm targeting you, is I went online and what are the top 10 favorite snack foods? Top of the list, Doritos. GMO corn, number 1 ingredient. Well, it says corn, but I'm guessing it's GMO. GMO is genetically modified organism. What it means is they took the genes of the corn and they married them somehow to the genes of something that is called Roundup Ready. So they can spray Roundup on the corn, glyphosate that is in Roundup. They can spray that on the corn and it won't die because it's been genetically modified. So the genes of the corn have been genetically modified to absorb this toxic pesticide. Now, if you want to eat that, it's up to you. I'm just telling you what it is. Now, it slips into food. I'm sure I ate it this week because it's impossible nowadays to be perfect in this area. And it also has vegetable oil, which is corn, soybean, and sunflower oil. Now, but Shane, those sound so good. They're not. They're rancid. They're terrible. Here's what they do. They heat the oil. They put chemicals on the oil. Why do they do that? Because when they heated it, it smells so bad. So now they put chemicals again on it to get rid of the smell, and then they have to use more chemicals to get rid of what they just did to the oil. And you see it's in these big 5-gallon containers, sunflower, canola. It's not good oil. It's not processed. Your body doesn't know what to do with it because it's been processed to such a high degree that it's not. There's no nutritional value whatsoever at all. That's why, and I would tend to agree, more people are more experts in this area. I'm not an expert. I'm just a jack of many trades. Try to learn a lot of different things. They are attributing much of our current disease to refined oils, refined vegetable oils. They've been refined. They've been told everything I just mentioned, versus cholesterol, grass-fed beef, good butter, healthy things that used to get a bad rap. For example, cholesterol is good and God-given. It's wonderful. It coats your lining. It's without cholesterol, you would die right now if your body just lost. It's important. It's good and God-given. Why don't we look at these other things that are creating a lot of the damage, that are refined and processed and chemicals? Is it man-made or is it God-given? There's where we're getting into trouble. Or is it man-altered? Because why would they do that to the oil, Shane? Well, because it's $5 for a gallon. You ever try to buy organic olive oil for a gallon? Now, I might forget this, so I'm glad I thought of it. Eating healthy is more expensive. I don't like it any more than you do. We're on a budget, but there are ways you can be selective. You can go. I go to a certain store here in my area, and I know a 2-pound bag of carrots is $1.99, and they'll lower blackberries organic down to $2.99 for the whole. So you have to be strategic, but also remember price and cost. The price is less to eat junk, but the cost is far greater. Doctor visits, health, prescriptions, medication, always sick. The cost is much greater. So remember that. And also, if you stop an addictive habit, say you kick Starbucks to the curb, you're going to save a couple $100 a month. No, it's not that much. If you take one of your kids through there, or both of your kids, $12, $15 at Starbucks, times that by 30 days. Come on. We know what to do. We just need help doing it. That's the key. Okay, it didn't stop there. Unhealthy cheddar cheese. I'm not even going to sicken you how they make the cheddar cheese. You think it's raw from a nice farm? Nope. Processed wheat, flour, and whey. And this is, I don't even know why they still allow this. Monosodium glutamate, MSG, is in Doritos. Monosodium glutamate. Shane, what's the big deal? Well, it's an excitotoxin. What is that? It's very toxic to the transmitters, to the brain, to the cells in the brain. They know these things. Now, but I know somebody eats a whole bag a day. Well, I know Keith Richards keeps smoking. Okay, so let's not bend the rules because of my grandma, she drinks a pint of whiskey every day and smokes, and she's 95. Well, good for her. That's what you call very good genes. That's what you call a body that cleans itself, I guess. I don't know what to say to that, but that doesn't disprove the truth that there is a lot of junk in our food. So here's the thing. When they're eating that, what life is going into their body? So you give a 6-year-old a bag of Doritos, what's that all about? What is it? Now, sometimes you might see mine with a small bag of Doritos, because I can't always stop this stuff. But with Dad, they know, they don't push as far. Mom does good too, but others, we're not rigid about it and Pharisees and mean, but we're like, okay, we'll try to have some boundaries here. But just think about, is that giving life to your kids? Or how is that going to help them? Any attention deficit disorders? Any learning issues, any social issues that are going on with their children? A lot of this is diet related. It's their central nervous system, their brain chemistry, versus an apple with the enzymes, the fiber, the vitamin C, all the vitamins they need, the pectin, this is life-giving. See, they eat, it gives life to the body. And the parents, but Shane, it's so hard. They just at home and you know what? Get it out of your house. 5-year-old's not walking to Walmart. We tried out of sight, out of mind. I saw my little 6, she almost 6. She grabbed a huge carrot last night. After those a little fit. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing in this house. We can't eat. Look at. We have black beans. We have pinto beans. We have bone broth. I can make a wonderful soup. We have oatmeal. We can let it cook, and I can put some flax seeds on it with some Manuka honey. No, there's nothing good in this house. Well, then too bad. So grabs a carrot. Or they'll go through oranges. They'll go through apples. They'll cut up mangoes. Your job is to train when you can. Out of sight, out of mind. Get the stuff out. I told you to be convicting. And the next high up on the list was Gatorade. Artificial color, glycerol ester of rosin. Do you know what that is? It's a purchase from large chemical suppliers. And I don't know if Gatorade removed this, but it used to have propylene glycol. It's from petroleum. It's the same ingredients. It's an antifreeze. Now, maybe they'll put turmeric in antifreeze, it wouldn't freeze, or water, it wouldn't freeze either. I don't know. Sometimes, natural things do have good results, but this just does not sound good to me. Artificial color and this ingredient from chemical suppliers, because what happens is a company will say, hey, this tastes good like sugar. Let's give it to some rats. They're not dying. Let's send it to the FDA. What do they think? They're so busy. Well, yeah, okay. We don't see that there's any, we can't for sure say this is bad. So let's approve it. I mean, the process is obviously lengthier than that and more complex, but many times, if there's no studies backing it and there's no, aspartame, for example, I think was a ulcer medication. In the 1950s, they said, oh, this tastes pretty sweet. Oh, well, now let's sell it then. Because why? Remember? What's the bottom line in many of these companies? Oh, not to mention this, when you give the kids a Gatorade, how many grams of sugar? 34. You might as well give them 13 Hershey chocolate kisses. 34 grams. 4 grams is a teaspoon. So you're at 8 teaspoons of sugar in a Gatorade. So we sit them down with a bag of Doritos and we give them a Gatorade. Come on. This is not rocket science, right? Okay, now here's what our days look like. We're talking about what's coming into our body. People say, but I'm having sandwiches and chips. Okay, but we're having GMO refined bread. We're having meat with sodium nitrates that is not healthy. And nitrates can damage the cell and also morph into molecules that cause cancer. And a lot of meat, look at your bacon, look at your beef jerky at the store, all that's sodium nitrates. It's a preservative that's not good for the body. Here's the thing about meat, I'll get into it a little bit later. Most of the meat, especially the chicken nowadays, is so loaded with steroids. They'll inject steroids. I don't know if they use like Equipoise or Winstrol V, those are veterinarian steroids. But they'll inject them with growth hormones, with steroids. So what? Why? Money. Big fat chicken. This healthy chicken's only going to make me $30, but this big fat healthy chicken, $90. And then we consume that meat with the antibiotics. They inject them a lot of antibiotics to make sure they're not going to get sick. They're walking around their own feces. They're in a very high stress environment. The cages are small, which releases cortisol, which damages. That's why even when they would kill animals, even back in Jesus' day, it would be what? Quick, because they don't want that hormone release, and it's toxic to the meat. Now you're also taking in the steroid that was injected. So basically, whatever's going into that chicken, you're consuming. I'm consuming. And you see where this is going, don't you? This is a problem of what we're taking and what we're eating. And then during our day, we're having hydrogenated oils, white flour that has no nutritional benefit. It actually releases insulin very quickly and spikes your sugar, which leads to fat gain, weight gain. High fructose corn syrup. And I wish I had time to break these all down. But high fructose corn syrup is the number one sweetener, I believe, right now. Just don't let the name fool you. High fructose in corn. Fructose is from fruit. Corn is from good. No, it's not good stuff. It's a sweetener that's very sweet, and I think it's what's causing a lot of our crisis with diabetes. Also, what about artificial sweeteners? Get rid of the Sweet and Low, the Equal, the Splenda. You've got aspartame, saccharin, all these things. Sodium nitrate, sodium benzenate. So this is what a person is eating throughout their day. So you see, the problem is what we're putting in to us. This is why disease and diabetes is on the rise. Man created food. And you've also probably have you heard the word inflammation lately? It's big in the news now. Localized inflammation isn't bad. If I cut my finger, it's going to be inflamed. There's inflammation. Why? Because the body's healing itself. The problem, what they're actually linking a lot of disease is to chronic inflammation. Chronic means the whole body is in a state of inflammation because it's trying to repair itself. The food you're taking in is junk. The stress you're feeling, there's chronic inflammation from that. It's just the body's in a state of chronic inflammation. So the body's responding to all this inflammation, all these problems, this toxic environment. That's what they're starting to attribute a lot of problems to. That's why natural things like, have you heard of turmeric and curcumin? That's why they help. They're God-given things. They're herbs and they're God-given. What they usually do, turmeric is the color, is the root, and then the curcumin is the actual molecule, the byproduct of it. And when you take that, it causes a response in your cells at a very deep level, and it goes and it fights the disease. Some of these are antioxidants. We talked about that, I think, a year ago. Where when you eat damaged foods, when you don't eat good things, free radicals are released into your body. What free radicals are, they go and they like Pac-Man, they like to destroy the body. But things like antioxidants it has to do with at the molecular level, but just suffice it to say this, that they will connect, the good guys will connect and begin to relieve the body of these stress indicators. They'll start to help repair. So that's what all this good God-given stuff is for, to help us in the physical body. Let me change gears for a minute. Let me read nutrition experts from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They came out with this. They found that nearly half of grocery store chicken is contaminated with chicken feces. After analyzing chicken products from 15 U.S. grocery store chains into 10 cities, the researchers concluded that 40% of the samples tested positive for E. coli. 48%? So again, back to the first part of this point. Educate yourself. Know the facts. Look to those who have the facts. What is the truth? Not to companies, not to the pharmaceutical industry, not to medical industry necessarily. There's great people in great positions there. But for example, physicians are not taught a lot about health. Maybe 4 hours in their whole time studying. They're taught to go and diagnose, okay, what's the problem? Here's a pill. To kind of, not to get to the root cause of what's going on, have the body heal itself. So here's the answer. Eat God-given food in its natural state as much as possible. But Shane, what about sweetener? Well, have you heard of honey? You know, moderation, maple syrup, stevia, there's some very good choices. If you have extra money, Manuka honey is very high in minerals and vitamins, and it's very good for the body, but not a cup of it. Organic meat when possible, but Shane, it's expensive, I know. So maybe cut back on some of it, you'll be okay. Listen, we don't need to eat meat at every meal. What diet's best? I'm getting there. Don't worry, don't jump ahead. So organic meat when possible, unprocessed, natural grains. It really irks me. People say, avoid carbohydrates. That sweet potato's from the devil. No, it's not. It's from God. There's a lot of good things in that sweet potato. If it's unprocessed, it's clean, it's not been sprayed, it's not GMO, it's a wonderful, wonderful item. So basically, you're going to have to go home and remove a lot of things. Right? Pantry, refrigerator. If you go on YouTube and you put in pantry pastor, a family let me go to their house and throw away everything in the refrigerator that was bad and everything in their pantry that was bad. And there's a lot of stuff. And it's just a matter of getting that out and getting the good stuff in. And setting that as the foundation. Because we know once the Captain Crunch comes in, then the just normal milk comes in. And on this issue I'll get to in a minute, but dairy, let me wait till I get to it because there's quite a bit to say there. Now also we talked about so we know basically, is it God-given? Fruit that's unsprayed, that's why organic is to be chosen if possible because it doesn't have herbicides, pesticides, fungicides. I think blueberries have like 7 or 8 or 9 different types of chemicals sprayed on them. So it's sprayed on the blueberries. Do you think they're washed and ready when they get to your house? Or do you think they're picked, put in the container, and there you go? So if anything, wash them. I mean, I would choose probably a blueberry that's not organic than a Doritos for sure. And actually, the Forks Over Knives guys, I called one of the Esselstyn, I think his name was. He actually talked to me a year ago when I was working on the fasting book, and I asked him why didn't you talk about the spray and all these? Well, he said, well, that wasn't our focus. Our focus was more just on casein and the meat and in the dairy industry and different things. And I'm hoping to get to that. Start thinking of your Q&As because we'll be able to do that at the end. But what about on? Did you know this is an organ? What you put on, do you think it just doesn't go anywhere? This is why I still cringe. I used to put hydraulic oil on my skin in construction to get a real good tan. It was like baby oil. And it worked. But, can I imagine that? My body was just probably, that's not good. New research, this is just out of the University of California, Berkeley. University of California, Berkeley. Great place to get medical information. Don't get theology from there. Couldn't resist. Those poor guys. They need God. I have to be careful because I have people watching from there, I think. So they've revealed that many conventional shampoos, soaps, and toothpaste are loaded with endocrine disrupting chemicals. What is that? What's the endocrine system? Hormones. So they're finding that many of these products have endocrine disrupting chemicals. So you're putting it on the skin, your hair, you're spraying it, and it's disrupting the hormones in kids. That's why puberty now is 10. It's no different than when men, if you get androgel, your doctor will prescribe it. Sometimes if your testosterone level is low, I would say don't do it because when you take androgel, you put gel on you and it shuts down your natural ability to produce testosterone. There's a better way to get your testosterone level up. Get off the junk food, get off alcohol, get off caffeine, stop smoking, start exercising, start eating healthy, and your testosterone level will increase greatly. I've known a man who did it from 200 up to 550 in his testosterone, because he's changed things in his diet. Well, here's where I'm going with that. So you put this on your skin, and it's a steroid that enters in through the skin. It says on there, do not under any circumstances give this to kids or touch your children if it's still in your hands. Why? You don't want to grab your 6-year-old and have testosterone. Gel, it gets into their skin. It's going to disrupt their normal course of growth. So these endocrine disrupting chemicals, they call them EDCs, they're in our products. So we have young women, young men, estrogen in women, testosterone in men that are using these products, whether it's deodorant, goes right into the body, whether it's lotion, whatever it is, whatever you're putting on is going to end up somehow into the system. So I would look at what, if you grab makeup and there's 84 ingredients and you can't pronounce 80 of them, that's what you're putting on your body. Deodorant with all this aluminum, this and this and this and this. There's good natural things that don't have these dangerous toxic chemicals in there. Well, Shane, why would they do that? Remember? So, when you can get a pound of chemicals for $1 versus natural things that are expensive, it always boils down to the dollar. Now, here's a big alert. Nursing or pregnant moms, be very careful in this area. because this will get in the milk, will get into the breastfeeding, these toxic chemicals. And also, as you're pregnant, it will get into the child that is in your womb. Many people think, well, if I can just do this or this, it won't really affect them. Whatever the mom takes in, the child does too. Whatever the mom eats, whatever she breathes, whatever she consumes, at some level it's going to affect the children. Now, I was going to talk about this for a while, but I don't want to upset people. So, I always get questions on this one word. Any ideas it starts with a V? No, not vegan. Worse. What? Vaccines. Oh, Lord have mercy. I had a doctor, he got so mad at me, like 10, I said, you're going to give her 6 shots? What? Are you kidding me? We're out of here. 6 shots? She's 6 years old. Now, let me say this. When I was younger, it was 5 shots, then 18. Now it's 72 recommendations by the time a child is 18. Most of that is influenza. But in December, I don't know if you saw this, the FDA just approved Vaxelis. Vaxelis is a new 6-in-1 combo vaccine combined 6-in-1. Why do they put 6-in-1? Storage, production, 6-in-1. The vaccine has been approved for infants as young as 6 weeks old and will be administered in a series of 3 dosages between 6 weeks and 4 months of age. So let me just tell you this on this topic. Do yourself a favor, whatever side you're on, doesn't matter, and just look at the facts. Here's how many people approach this topic. Don't confuse me with the facts. I've already done it. I've already made up my mind. The hardest people to talk to about this are the ones whose kids are already gone and then, they vaccinate, so we feel terrible. Well, with our first one, we're trying to learn and grow too. And I'm not totally against things. If with tetanus, is that an important shot sometimes? There's things you got to look into. It'd take me a whole sermon here to go down to the different things. But when you take a strain of something, a disease, and it's either dead or it's sick, supposedly, and you inject that with mercury or other chemicals, and you put that directly into a 6-month-old bloodstream, and maybe 3, 4, 5 different types of things, it's just not a wise decision. It's not how the body was created. And people say, but Shane, that's how the body responds to the disease. The body responds to diseases because it's already been given a God-given immune system. That's what we already have. It's not like we're born and we die unless we get a shot. How the body's immune system works is an infant is born. Here comes a strep throat virus. Here comes the body sees it should be a healthy child, especially if they're breastfed. The mom's eating healthy food. The child's healthy. That body they go and they just knock it out. They consume that bacteria. They kill it. The immune system just kills it. So now we've got kids. Doritos, Gatorade, might as well stick with it since I'm on that roll. They're eating tons of junk. They're taking antibiotics every year. Amoxicillin, I can't get rid of this cold. I can't get rid of this sore throat. I can't get rid. Always on antibiotics, always sick, because their immune system, the natural immune system, is being suppressed because of all this toxic environment we're living in. So research it. Do a little study. Maybe you'll say, hey, we need to do this vaccine. I think this one's just look at the facts. I have a book out there and I can recommend it if you like. It's a secular. All he does is quote the FDA. You'd be alarmed of what, we really haven't found that this has been efficient. We really haven't found, yes, there are side effects, but it's FDA, it's what they're saying about their own vaccines. Well, why is this? What's driving this? Do you think the pharmaceutical industry wants you healthy? And a physician's a good friend of mine. My doctor, I have a cell phone. And I'll tell him, hey, I've got this. We got red bumps in the back of the mouth. My daughter, can you prescribe some, if we come in there, maybe get her on some amoxicillin or something. Years ago, usually we've been able to defeat it with colloidal silver and elderberry and echinacea and zinc and all these things, and just eating healthy will eliminate a lot of that. But I'm not saying throw out the baby with the bathwater. Physicians need us and we need them. It should be, I don't know 1/10 of what they know regarding medical things, but I do know how the body works, and I do know when somebody comes in 50 pounds overweight, you should not give them a statin drug, and that be the answer. You need to get them off of that weight off of them. All the statin drug is stops the liver from producing cholesterol. Not good. Don't you love those commercials you see on TV? Oh, it's just girls running. Chloroform, and then afterwards, could cause seizures, early death, internal bleeding, and nausea. Could result in vomiting, panic attacks, and sudden death. But see, they have to say that because that's the truth. So, answer, read labels, go natural, clean out your home. From cleaning chemicals to scented mechanisms, whatever, just clean out the house. Let it be a healthy environment when possible. No, it's not always possible, correct? I mean, there's people out there that you think I'm extreme. I have the wrong mattress. I have the wrong laundry detergent. It's like car. I have the wrong, it's like everything. You just use wisdom. I mean, even right now, as I speak, there are people wood staining my bathroom countertops or side the drawers. You think that's good to smell? Wood stain? I don't think so. But I'm not going to live my life thinking, we're not changing anything. We're going to have this house look like the 1980s Brady Bunch and be proud of it. Now, I do have an air purifier and some windows open, and I won't be going right home, so, it's a little break there. So just go through your house and make some changes. There's much better now. I can't even get into chemical cleaning products. That when we clean our house with these chemicals, and that smells so clean. That's not a clean smell. That's a chemical smell. Big difference. What about our spiritual and physical environment? We talked about what we're putting on, but our spiritual and physical environment. Did you know that anger can release neurotransmitters? Neurotransmitters are set off to release hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline. So anger, all this, and they identify that can relate to heart attacks sometimes. This anger, and it releases this hormone all the time, and it's a bad state for your body to be living in. In an angry, bitter, unforgiving state, it's very unhealthy for the body. Absolutely unhealthy. Bitterness releases the hormone cortisol. And chronically high levels of this hormone can affect the immune system and increase the odds of disease. So the answer for that one is to go back to timeless truths. Meditate on God's word. Meditate on God's word. There's people here probably listening who are not Christians. They do not believe in God. I would encourage you, make that decision today. There's nothing more important than health. You can look like a 10. You can look like a perfect model down in Hollywood and still be miserable inside. The 10s are miserable. Talk to them. They are miserable if God is not the foundation, because we were never designed to be an idol and to be worshiped. And I wish you even get into neuroplasticity. Lori, you sent me this information too. Neuroplasticity, they're learning, and there's good books out there where the brain is actually especially during deep sleep, during deep REM sleep, the brain is actually reproducing new cells. So you're like, this is programmed in me. This is part of my genes. Not necessarily. You can change your thinking. You can renew your thinking. I think I read that somewhere. Romans. Renew what? Renew your mind. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed. How, Paul? By the renewing of your mind. Neuroplasticity. They taught it 2,000 years ago, and now we're just catching up. The mind, the mental diet is so important. What about, I just should throw this out there too, what about what we breathe? Did you know that most candles, those scented candles, they are made from paraffin wax, which creates highly toxic benzene and toluene? Now, I'm saying, well, you know me, I'm like, well, what is that? Well, here's what that is. It's the same as those found in diesel fuel. Enough said? But it smells like pine. It's not pine, it's chemicals. And I felt it. If you're sensitive to this stuff, you can feel it. I remember we were staying at a cabin somewhere, and this guy had like those machines that came on, psst, psst, like, what is that noise? Everywhere I'm on, psst, 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 like 4 things. And it's like, I've got a headache in here. It just smells terrible. So they went outside for a week. You know, you just take them out, but it's scented. It smells like pine trees. It's not good. It's all chemicals. And your body takes it and goes, what is this? I don't know what to do with this. And then number 3 on this whole topic we're talking about, here's how you get back on track. Be prepared and plan ahead. Be prepared and plan ahead. This gets me and my family more than anything else, I would say. We get home, there's nothing to eat. Look at this refrigerator. There's hummus, there's carrots, there's broccoli, there's salsa, there's healthy. No. Or we're out of food, or we're not planned ahead. So what does that mean? In-N-Out Burger. Panda Express. We're not planning ahead. My plan ahead is I don't care, we're making something or I'm going to the store. That's how we plan ahead when that comes up. But here's a couple things when it comes to planning and being prepared. Out of sight is out of mind. Out of sight is out of mind. We've talked about that earlier, so I don't want to have to go into a lot of detail here, but out of sight, out of mind, and then also quick access to healthy food. Here's the problem. We look at all that. Who has time to cut up? I mean, have you ever made a big salad? It's like 30 minutes. Cabbage, carrot, oh my goodness. Now I actually pay my daughter $10 a week to cut up our veggies and put them in a thing. So it's a good deal on both of us. But we'll start to have in the refrigerator, big mason jar. All it is cut up carrots, cut up bell peppers, cut up cucumbers, and you just pour a little bit onto your salad. It's already done for 4 or 5 days. It's already made. And what do the kids start to do when they get hungry? They start to open and start to eat those things. I mean, a cucumber with a little bit of good salt on it is actually not too bad. You know, carrot with a good kind of hummus is really not too bad. So prepare, plan ahead. Yeah, it takes a little bit of work. But it took a little bit of work to drive to Panda Express, wait in line, pay money, and come home. I mean, it's 30 minutes doing that too. But see, we use these as excuses. Try this. We don't have anything. Well, let's fast tonight. Let's fast tonight. We're gonna do intermittent fasting. I'll run to Vaughn's. I'll be back in 2 hours, and you can intermittent fast. What's my thoughts on that? I'm getting there. But also when you remove things, that's why I tell people if I help them at their home, and you want me to come to your house and remove everything from your pantry or refrigerator, you have to have something to add right in. You know, if I'm taking out this, I'm adding this. You have to add in something healthy so you have a choice. Here's what's funny. I know this is difficult for many people. Like, I can't believe this. Right now, dipping a carrot or bell pepper in hummus sounds better to me than going to In-N-Out Burger. And I'm just be honest with you. Because your body changes. It changes. You start to crave natural whole foods. I stopped drinking soda many, many years ago. Even now, like, that is so sweet. Like in this, for example, was a tiny bit of organic grape juice in the rest water. And that's enough sweetener. Honestly, this is sweet to me. And people say, why? Because the taste buds change. You can change your body to want these things. And here's what's good about this. When you go into a hard environment, I go to meetings sometimes and there's a dozen donuts. Don't even faze me. Day before, if I just had pumpkin pie and a large Venti coffee, I'd be eating 3 of those donuts. Because you've started that. Whatever begins to control you becomes your master. And you begin to just eat things we shouldn't be eating. Dining out tips. This would take an hour. I want to try to be nice here because I have friends who own restaurants. Go as healthy as possible. Or just know you're probably not everything I just mentioned is probably gonna be in the food. You know, a lot of it. I mean, that's just the truth. Refined oils, things that, just I guess you got to splurge, but you can order if you get rice and beans. I mean, I'm sure the rice isn't organic, healthy. It's probably GMO rice. It's probably white rice. It's been stripped of all its nutrients. And the beans are probably been laden in a jar with a lot of aluminum, maybe soaked in there, not organic, GMO genes. And I mean, that's just the world we live in. I wish I could tell you something different than that. There are healthy restaurants, sometimes labeled healthy, but I've even asked them, where'd you get these vegan patties? Oh, here's where we got them. Well, they've got refined vegetable oils in there. Which, I still have it now and then because, again, if you can eat perfectly, please come talk to me. The only people that can eat perfectly are Little House on the Prairie, 150 years ago, that shot their own deer and grew their own, food. But what you have to do is start putting most of it in your favor. So do I dine out very much? Not too much. Not too much. Or some restaurants, they'll say organic salad with there's a Mexican Sharky's there in Palmdale. They've got some good organic choices there. But I'd still like to see if their tortilla still has, I'm saying like Hispanic person, has partially hydrogenated oils and, partially hydrogenated oils. Have you ever seen that term on the back? They inject hydrogen gas into the fat so it will last forever. And it causes inflammation in the body. It's not good for the body. So eating out, I wish I had a lot of tips. But go as close to possible, as natural as you can. The meat is probably processed. I wish I had some good news on that. And if somebody wanted to open a purely healthy restaurant, it could be done, but it's expensive. Prepare for the holidays and vacations. Goes back to my first point. Have a lifestyle mentality in mind. Why do we go on vacation, fall off the wagon, get depressed, and hard getting back on track? Well, vacation should be fun. I'm not having fun if I'm caving into ice cream, caving into dessert, gaining weight, miserable, my mood swings, I can't sleep. That's not fun to me. Now, enjoy the ice cream. Have something, enjoy your vacation, absolutely. But I use that often as an opportunity to stay on track, not get off track. To stay on track, to come back the same weight, to feel good. At our last vacation, I had ice cream with the kids, but we also ate a healthy dinner, a healthy lunch, and you still bring it in there. Because it'll knock you off track. But I'm eating at this place. I'm staying at this hotel. If you're going to Las Vegas, good luck. So there are exceptions, and I know not everybody can follow this, but my point was during holidays and vacations, you can be prepared. They shouldn't be any different. I actually enjoy vacation a lot more when I get a good jog in, a good hike, go fishing, and then also eat good, and then still, s'mores at the campfire. Carrie, right, you're here. And enjoy those things, though. Brant, you remember, you can enjoy those things. But it doesn't have to become your lifestyle. Like breakfast, lunch, dinner. Hey, let's just blow it at every meal. And then we come back heavier. We come back discouraged. And vacation, are you happy on vacation when you know you're digressing? I'm not. Number 6 on this point. Oh, no, let's remove the numbers. Come still number 3, by preparing and planning, Expect withdrawals. Expect withdrawals when you begin to eat healthy. Here they come. Expect them. Here's what I do. I pray for heaven, but I prepare for hell. Because when you try to get off caffeine, just that one's going to turn you into a devil. If you try to get off sugar, that's going to turn you into a devil. If you try to get off processed food and chemicals, you prepare for that. See, prepared though, because to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Okay, I know this is what is happening. I'll tell you, I think I shared this before. I don't know when it was, 2008, 9, don't quote me on any of this, but I had the worst. I've never had anxiety, panic attacks. So when people tell me that, I know exactly what they're talking about. It's like, I cannot function. I'm going to scream at somebody. I'm going to yell, what is this? I'm just, you feel like you're going to implode and just, what is going on? Oh my, and I have to take a drive to get, like, Lord, please help me. I don't know what's going on. What's helping me? God help. I mean, I can't live like this. It was just debilitating. You can't function. You can't be around people. And it just hit me. Oh, that's right. I quit off my afternoon caffeine 2 days ago. Sure enough, I go online. Oh, yeah. It's exactly what's happening. I should have weaned off maybe a little bit, but I just stopped. I was having a huge thermos of strong caffeine every day after 2 or 3 to get me through. And the next day, I'm not doing that anymore because I knew I had to wean off of this stuff. And it hit like a ton of bricks. But to me, it shows how powerful these things are. Sugar, you stop that, you're going to snap, you're going to hit somebody. Why? Because your body's, it's no different than a person wanting to smoke marijuana or get a drink. It's the same type of, especially if you talk to those who study the brain, the neurotransmitters in the brain, the pleasure of like cocaine in the body, the pleasure, dopamine, and how it raises these neurotransmitters. If they take something like caffeine, sugar, it's the same type of message it sends to the brain. That's why people have a hard time getting off. So expect withdrawals. Prepare for them. It's part of the process of cleansing. And then also, do not allow failure to lead to excuses and more failure. Do not allow failure to lead to more excuses and more failure. That's what you probably need to hear today more than anything. Anybody came in here defeated? Like, man, I can't. 4 days ago, I decided to make New Year's resolutions. I believe it's a battle. Personally, as a pastor, I see that this can be a spiritual battle as well. I don't think the enemy wants us in good health. Why is it so easy to go get something junky, but very difficult to take good care of the body? Here's the problem that I've talked about in other times too. With food and these chemicals, all these things I'm talking about, they can become a stronghold. They can become an addiction, and they begin to master you. That's not a good thing, especially for a believer, because Paul said, even though all things are lawful, I will not be brought under the power of anything. So once these addictions begin to control us, I remember the days I had to have my Diet Pepsi by 3 p.m. Do not talk to me, and I have to take this Diet Pepsi. I have to take this, and I have to have a liter of this stuff to get through the day. And you start to be addicted to it. So it would determine where I would go, when I would stop my vehicle. What about my 20s? Alcohol. What restaurant I would choose. How I felt the next morning. How I planned my day. The friends I would hang around with. What restaurants. What friends I wouldn't hang around with. And these things begin to control us more than we think. So we have to we get rid of these types of ensnarements. So again, when you're watching this, remember to hit the share button, because we want to get this message out to a lot of different people. So now moving on to the next number 4. Is that where I'm at? Get back on track by not dieting. Hopefully we can take a break here in a minute. By not dieting, and I explained this earlier, short-term experience cannot solve a long-term problem. So if you go into this, I'm going to try the keto diet. I'm going to try the paleo diet. I'm going to try this diet or this diet or this diet. But see, you're going to try this diet, a short-term diet. How is that going to fix the rest of your life? So we have to find out what works and have that work for us. Now, here's why most of these plans are working right now. People go from unhealthy to healthy. So they love this diet because they pretty much got rid of a lot of their junk food. And now this diet has worked for them, supposedly. So I'm going to try to get through this pretty quickly. But let me just tell you this up front. You're going to have to find out what works best for you. I'm going to give you the tools, but you have to work. You can't say, my friend did the ketogenic diet. Or this works good, or this person does this, and LeBron James does this. I'm going to follow that. Well, you burning 1,500 calories a day at basketball practice? What about eat right for your blood type? What about the paleo way? What about Whole Foods way, or Whole Foods 30, or whatever? And what about what works best for you? Because it has to be something you can stick with. It has to be something you can maintain. It has to be something that is going to be incorporated into your daily life. So let me explain these for a minute. Here's the key you have to remember too. The problem is a lot of the food is toxic, but another big problem is what? Not moving. Not moving. I just watched some old footage from New York, 100 years old. Thousands of people in the streets. I didn't see anyone overweight. What did they have to do? We have to walk. We have to move. So I'm a little leery of it being all about diets. As if we can sit home and watch 3 hours of Netflix and try a ketogenic diet and watch the fat just melt off. We have to be moving. We have to be active. You have to get back to that somehow. So that's the main problem, is obviously the food, but energy expenditure. Here's the wonderful thing about moving. For example, you take an hour, you just go walk for an hour. It can be done. You won't get bored. Pray, listen to worship, and walk for an hour, depending on the speed and the pace and where you're at. 300, 400, 500 calories. You're burning. Calories are units of energy. Maybe I should talk about that first. How a person puts on weight is they eat calories. They eat units of energy. Protein, fats, and carbohydrates are the three main big ones, obviously. They call those macronutrients, and the micronutrients are the smaller vitamins and minerals and different things. But you take in a unit of energy, okay? So whether it's carbohydrates, protein, fat, they all can be stored as fat. But go ahead and answer that. So you take in this food, and if you're not utilizing that energy, see, I like to eat 3,000 calories, but I don't like to burn it. But that's how we are designed. And people are like, oh, carbohydrates, avoid those like the devil. Well, carbohydrates are good and God-given. It's the primary source of fuel for the human body. What happens is carbohydrates are taken in, it's glucose, it's converted to glycogen, and it's stored in your liver and in your muscle. So you have glycogen stored in your liver and your muscle. Why? Why is it stored? Because it's quick use, quick use. And then when that storage is depleted, it will go to your fat as your tissue. That's the purpose of fat as well. It's not a functional tissue. That's why when people go into fasting modes, one of the big lies is out there is you'll waste away, you'll lose all your muscle. Actually, your body is so smart because there is a creator. This is not an evolutionary seminar. Your body goes into what's called fat sparing, and protein is protected, muscle is protected. You might lose a little bit, but what happens is your fat becomes fuel. Isn't that interesting? Your fat will actually become fuel. So that's how the diet industry and this whole thing on calories works. We eat too much, it's stored as fat. So the answer is, how do we get it off? What's going on? And the old adage was, and I have to be honest with you, in my first book, What Works When Diets Don't, there are free downloads that we have on the website. I kind of put too much emphasis into counting calories and caloric restriction, but I think caloric restriction can be good. If you're eating too much, you have to restrict your caloric intake. Obviously, you don't want to eat too much, but you can't go around counting calories either. It has to be something that works, something that's whole, something that's healthy, like the body was designed. So let's get into this for a minute. Keto, is that the big one right now? Ketogenic diet. Let me try to explain it first, because you think the name ketogenic. When the body is starved of carbohydrates, you're storing about 400 grams, 500 grams in your body right now, which would be equivalent to 1,600 to 2,000 calories are stored as glycogen, carbohydrates in your body right now, in your liver and your muscle, I would assume for most of us. So that's stored. So once you deplete your body and you don't eat carbohydrates, or much, if any, it's impossible, I think, to have zero. But if you start to really limit carbohydrates, what's going to happen? The glycogen is depleted. So you had 400 grams, now you're at 300, 200, 100. Uh-oh. What are we going to do for energy? Body's screaming, what are we going to do? We're going to die. No, we're not going to die. Something called gluconeogenesis happens in a little bit, but I'm going to get to this first. The body then responds by saying, okay, fat, it's your turn. This is what you're stored for. And it starts to burn the fat. But it takes a good 24, 48, depends on where your body is. It's really a hard number to put exactly on. So your body starts to burn fat. When that is burned for fuel, what is released into your bloodstream they're called ketones. ketone bodies. You can measure it with a urine stick if you want. They have tests at the store. But even when you're on a fully ketogenic diet, I've been fasting for 4 days, water only, and I still only have a moderate ketone level. Why? Because gluconeogenesis happens that a lot of people don't talk about. Glucogeneo, new, genesis, the beginning. Your body, your fat, glucose was turned to fat, right? Fat can also be turned back to glucose. So you'll have glucose in the bloodstream as well as ketones. Your body's utilizing both. Your brain needs about 75% can go off of ketones, but there's 25% that some areas in our body have to live off of glycogen, glucose. That's why your body converts it to that. So you probably don't need to know most of this. What you do need to know is on this type of diet, if you're going to follow this, 9 times out of 10, now here's why I want to be careful because there are variations. I knew a guy who was on a ketogenic diet. All he had in the morning was tons of bacon and eggs and butter. And then, it sounds good to some people, and at lunch, just a huge steak and just tons of butter and tons of, that's overboard. His cholesterol reading was 400 at that time, big guy. And I don't know if that's the right approach, if you want to go into this approach. Now, I would say, though, if you're thinking, what should I do? I think limiting carbohydrates is not a bad idea. I think for most of you in this room, it's not a bad idea if you want to do that, to limit those. Not avoid them, but you don't need them. Watch how quickly you'll start to remove packaged chips, packaged crackers. I think it's a great idea. But I would not necessarily just avoid something like a healthy yam. You might be surprised, but I'll have a yam in the day. I'll have a potato. I'll have beans. I'll have rice. But if I'm also burning 500, 600, 700, 800 calories later in the day, so how can I say, okay, here's what you need to do. Here's what Shane does. Well, see, that doesn't work. You need to do the keto diet. For me personally, I cannot do it because it doesn't work for me. I like to have a little bit of carbohydrates. I can't go throughout the whole day limiting my carbohydrates to a very small amount. That's why I say if it works for you, wonderful. But if you're going to do it, this type of diet, go for healthy fats. An avocado in the morning with some eggs, organic, free range, where the chickens are running around, there's no stress, free range. And then also later in the day, maybe a huge salad with 4 ounces of chicken breast on it. And then later in the evening, same kind of pattern. So you can avoid you can get rid of carbohydrates for a season. You can't really get rid of them, but you can minimize them. And people will be shocked if they looked at their diet now and see what they're actually consuming in the way of carbohydrates. It's a lot more than you think. So I can talk to you a little bit more about that later. Again, find out what works for you. The paleo diet, they always use the word evolution in it. I don't like it because it eliminates beans and grains, and these foods fight inflammation. Sweet potato, for example, is a rich source of fiber as well as vitamins and minerals, including iron and calcium and selenium and all these other good things. So we see this wonderful thing coming from God-given foods. But then paleo, I think, is on Netflix, and the lady started talking about the wizard within her tells her what to do. And she's baking this pig's head in this pot, and you can make some good broth from that. The gelatin in that broth, the minerals in that broth, it's not a bad idea. Pig's just a dirty food, unless it's your own pig. And so these things can work, but I wouldn't recommend going fully in this direction because it avoids too many good and God-given foods. I want to read this real quick. On the ketogenic, finding out what works for you. I just looked up, his name is Mr. Milan. He's a director of exercise physiology at the University of Colorado Sports Medicine and Performance Center in Boulder, Colorado. He said, for performance, low carbohydrates do not work. We have more and more people coming in eating low carbs and their performance is horrible. Restore their diets to normal and things improve. And also LeBron James, I remember 2014, he was having a difficult season. People were texting him, get back on carbs. So see, you have to find out what works for you. Now, just on that point, there's already comments going on Facebook. I can see it right now. It works great for me. I go jogging 3 hours a day, and wonderful, wonderful. But overall, removing the body's chief source of energy, I don't think ketones and ketone bodies are the way God designed us as a chief source of energy. How do I know that? Because we need fast, sustainable energy in the form of glucose that can be released immediately. That's how we are designed. Carbohydrates are the chief burning fuel for the human body. It's like this. Oh, I'm getting tired. 2,000 years ago, I'm going to pass out. Oh, look at these blueberries. Man, I'm ready to go. I just took in that fructose, and now I'm ready to go. The body doesn't say, well, let me break down fat after a while. It's a chief source. It's a wonderful food, but we're moving a lot less. So we have to be strategic. When I was in construction, I would eat 3,000 calories a day or more and stayed lighter than I am now. And you would be amazed at the carbohydrates I brought to lunch. Shane. I mean, a bowl of rice. You're talking 1,000 calories just in rice? Who's going to eat that many carbohydrates? I needed it. It was efficient. It was good, especially if you're in sports, your performance. So if you're going to kick up your activity and do different things, then this is going to be important that you monitor. So you have to look and see what works best for you. All the Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, my problem with programs is, again, the food content. To have something in a container and you go in microwave, not a good idea. Chemicals in the food. Follow examples if you need to. Get good, healthy meal plans. But don't rely on those types of things. You have to find out what works best for you. Well, Shane, I don't know where to start. I'm going to get to there in a minute. When it comes to what diet is best and different things, I look at creation. Look at creation. How did God create us? How did God create us? So how did he create us? To remove the excess weight, to eat healthy, to eat right foods, and to move and to change our habits and different things. So when it comes to diet, what diet is best, I look at how we were created. Here's how we were created. To eat living, life-giving food. Living, life-giving food, not food designed in a factory. Living. So see, the food gives life to the body. The food brings back strength and health to the body, or it contributes to the disease. And people might say, oh, this is so hard, this is so much. The reason it is because we've drifted so far. We've become so dependent upon junk food and chemicals and products. We've become so dependent on them that this seems like a radical change. But getting back to good, God-given, healthy food. So hopefully that might help some of you. If I were you, I wouldn't focus on, I got to do this diet. What I would do is focus on how you were created. Start eating the foods that God created in their natural state. That means that's not a lot of eating boxed foods. Oh, what about cereal for my kids? Oatmeal? A little bit of honey, some flaxseed. They're not going to like that. They will eventually when it's all that's on the table all week long. Remember, who trains them? Train up a child in the way they should go. Spiritually only? Why not in all areas of life? So that's what works. We have to look at creation. How did God design you? You know, there was a question that came up. I'm hoping to get to that, the Q&A. We'll do that in just a little bit. So here's the primary foods. When I look at primary foods, I look at like the Daniel fast, the biblical examples from Ezekiel bread to raisin cakes to wheat to beans. We see in the Bible the plethora of food information. Majority of it is focused on plant-based foods, the majority of it. You would see a calf being killed. They would eat lamb. They would eat things at celebrations and different things. But it was mainly plant-based foods. Why is that? Because the life of the food, you know, food has life in it, right? Because it's dying, it's decaying. That life, you're supposed to consume it, and that life-giving source of nourishment is deposited into your body. From an apple, for example, the pectin, the fiber, the vitamins, all that gives life to the body. That's how we were created. That's why God designed us, and that's how he designed us. We are created to eat God-given, life-giving food. Now, let this be an encouragement to you. I've eaten more life-giving, raw, God-given food in the last 3 years than I have in the last 30. Because I was into processed foods, the box foods, the junk foods, and I thought healthy was putting a piece of broccoli on my plate. So that's what we see in the Bible, is we see a ton of God-given food. So I'm not against meat at all. I'm not a big fan of it. I think we eat too much. If you're going to eat dairy, dairy's dirty. I talk about that in the past, especially, people think pasteurized is good. Pasteurization isn't really good. It kills all the good things. And it takes raw dairy is healthy. I've had raw goat's milk. It's expensive. And I like raw dairy because that's how God created us. People say, well, what about this? Well, you're not too concerned about the sushi you just ate. See, we make excuses in areas that we want to make excuses in. But yes, there are some concerns because of the bacteria and different things. But overall, again, look at the facts. Just look at the facts. Don't trust my judgment. Go on. The benefits of raw dairy. Unpasteurized, unadulterated, unfiltered, undamaged. Now, I'm not even getting into the milk you pick up at the store, what that cow went through. The milk, it's basically sugar water. So you have to start weaning yourself off of some of these things. If you want to, okay? We're going to leave. This is so much. I don't know where to start. Start by eliminating the bad and bringing in the good. There's dozens of wonderful fruit. And still people come up to me, I don't eat fruit. Like they're proud of that. I don't eat fruit. It's too much sugar. It's good, really good for you. Do you know the antioxidant content of strawberries and blueberries and pineapple? Oh no, I don't eat fruit. There's too much sugar. There's too much sugar. How were you designed? Why did God only, out of all the fruits, why is only one fattening? All the fruits, why is one fattening? Which one's fattening? Come on, it has a seed in the middle, it's green. It's good fat, right? But all the other fruits were designed by God to bring life into the body. I have no problem. The reason we have a problem eating carbohydrates is because we want to sit on the couch all day. So yeah, you better avoid your carbohydrates if Netflix is your friend. But that's not being productive. So fruit, God-given food. Now I wouldn't eat a ton of it. I mean, there is fructose in it. That's what fructose. And it is a sugar. It's a good God-given sugar that we need. But your main staple should be plant-based, vegetable, and then bring in some meat, some raw dairy when you can, or even normal dairy if you're not going to listen to me. And, have it a little bit, moderation. You'd be amazed if you just do half of what I told you. Just half. You'd be amazed at the results. So again, I think a low-carb diet is good for those in certain conditions. If you want to jumpstart, you need to get some weight off. You need to watch those carbohydrates. Because carbohydrates, when you take that carbohydrates in, it converts to glucose, and glucose releases insulin. Insulin is not a good hormone when it comes to losing fat. Why? Insulin tells your body to store fat. Glucagon, the opposite of insulin, is what does the opposite effect. Well, I want more glucagon. I want more glucagon. Do you know what the number one trigger of glucagon is? It just skyrockets. Fasting. When you fast, insulin decreases and glucagon increases tremendously. There's a big shift. Because you're either in a feeding, fed state and insulin's high, or you're in a fasting state and insulin is low. And I remember breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't know where snacks came in there. Because my mom would say, you're going to ruin your dinner. So where did this come from? Marketing. Your kids are not going to die if they don't eat every 2 hours or 3 hours. And I think that's part of the problem. Breakfast, a snack, lunch, a snack, dinner, and then more snacks. Why are they always hungry? Because they're nutrient deficient. They're deficient in their nutrients. That's why the body's hungry all the time. It's very deficient. Okay, so here's the plan. I'm going to give you the plan for the average person. I'm going to have to go quick here. Elimination. Get off the junk. leave here and get off the junk. Everything from stimulants to sugar to bad carbohydrates. Get off of it. And I'm going to go on my coffee rant for a minute. Is that okay? I know that's most of us in here. Here's why I do that. It's a very addictive drug. It has a stronghold in the lives of many. It affects insulin and sugar cravings. So if you're wanting to get off sugar and lose weight, bad friend to have. The chemical carcinogens in coffee, I think there's right now over 200 listed chemicals in coffee. Unless you get organic, which is, better choice, but most people don't do that. And number 4, here's a biggie for me. It keeps the body in a constant state of fight and flight. Constant state of fight and flight. What are you doing? You're giving yourself a drug. It's a drug, let's be honest. Go online, it is called a drug. It's a drug. And it keeps your body in a state of constant fight and flight. So what's high? Cortisone levels are high. So do you remember what I said earlier about chronic inflammation? So if your body's always when I get up in the morning, I have to have it. By lunch, I have to have it. Later in the day, I have to have it, get through my day. You're keeping your body in a constant state of fight and flight. And you're not getting good night's sleep, I can guarantee you that. You should get deep, like just rapid eye movement, deep healing sleep. And that does not happen on caffeine. You can have a cup of coffee and go to sleep. That's because you're passing out and your adrenal glands are fatigued and you're just passing out, but you're not getting good sleep. That's why you have to wake up in a couple hours. And that's why you're not getting good sleep, is because this highly addictive drug is doing what it does best, keeping you addicted. Now there's alternatives, green tea, a cup of green tea. The caffeine content in that is about 20 milligrams compared to 200 in a big strong cup of coffee. So you can make some small changes there. And this is what frustrates me most, I think, about this topic, is you get all these gurus, fasting gurus and doctors. And these are brilliant men on biochemistry and how the body works. And, oh yeah, it's okay to have coffee with your fast. Baloney. You shouldn't have deposit 200 chemicals and a highly addictive drug into your system when the whole point of the fast is to detox. What are you smoking? Here's why. They're all addicted. They're addicted. And they don't want to remove the addiction. But to tell somebody it's okay to have coffee on a fast might work metabolically. It might help and not hurt the fast because there's no caloric intake if you don't put cream in it. But to say it's no big deal, I don't think it's healthy at all. Part of detoxing is getting off of stimulants. So the reasoning is because a lot of these people, a lot of doctors are addicted and they don't understand the danger of it, or they're just not open to constructive criticism in that area. So here's what else you need to do. What was the first one? Okay, get rid of all. Okay, I better not say the word all. Get rid of as much of the garbage as you can. Take it out. Get rid of the garbage from your house. Number 2, begin fasting intermittently. Intermittent fasting, I don't think, is a fad. I think it's how we were designed. I don't think we were designed to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks. Because when you're working out in the farm, there's no food. I've got to go home, half a mile away, grab something. There, we are designed to work and to do things, not to always be eating this. The whole concept that came in, eating every 2 to 3 hours, was not a good concept. Well, supposedly it keeps the metabolism burning. Well, actually, it keeps your insulin level high. And the body doesn't get time. Intermittent fasting is giving your body a break. Giving your body a break so it can begin to burn even fat, ketones a little bit. There's too much carbs still in the system. But intermittent fasting is wonderful because it also reduces your caloric intake. It also will begin to release that hormone I talked about, glucagon, and you begin to feel better, begin to operate better. It doesn't kill you. Intermittent fasting, it gives your body a break. Because most of us, unless you're not like me, we're caving into food quite often. So intermittent fasting says, no, I'm not. And it's good for the body. Research yourself, all studies on intermittent fasting are very healthy. And I believe it's the way God designed us. I don't think it's a fad. I don't think we were designed to have a fast food establishment on every corner. For example, something I might talk about in a minute if I get to it. Monday, some of you know I put in the bulletin. Monday, I decided, December 31st, I'm doing water only, fasting, Monday. Well, guess what came with it? A cold. And I just said I haven't been sick in a couple years, and God's sense of humor. So a bad cold on Monday, still fasting. Tuesday, fasting. Wednesday, fasting. Thursday, fasting. This cold is, I got so much stuff. My eyes are puffy. I'm not going to be able to speak on Saturday. This is terrible. God, please heal me. This is not working good. So 4 days of water only. Last night, I went and brought a strong broth, chicken broth with garlic, with chili peppers, with a little bit of chicken, a big, huge salad. That's all I ate last night. So about 1,000 calories. It was pretty big, a little bit of sweet potato. And then today I got up and didn't eat. I won't eat maybe again till tonight or later today. So it's 18 hours to 24 hours of intermittent fasting. And your body will get used to it. You might say, that's impossible. And it is when you first start. Unless your Pastor Abram here did 3 days, just week of water. I'm like, that's unbelievable. That just doesn't happen because your body, unless your mindset's pretty strong, you have to get the right mindset. But this isn't about fads. This isn't about extreme. This isn't about some monks out in the desert. Fasting is how God designed us. God designed us not to eat and be captivated by our food. It's called gluttony. Because we think, we have an image of a 400-pound king who's a glutton. No. It can be a 210-pound me who can be a glutton. Did you know I can be a glutton and go on an hour and a half, 2-hour jog and burn 1,000 calories every day and you wouldn't even know it? Glutton, gulping down is what it comes from. Gulp, gulp. And now we have big gulps. So gluttony is anything where food, we're gulping it down, we're taking in too much, it's controlling us. Intermittent fasting silences that voice, so consider it. How do I begin? Start with a meal. Do you have to get up and do you have to have Starbucks and a pastry? Do you have to? Don't talk to me until I had my... You know where it's going. Number 3, stop when satisfied, not full. Ooh, that's a toughie, because last night I could have kept going. You haven't eaten for 4 days, you're going to keep going. And I said, no, I'm satisfied, very satisfied, not full. Before you're just full of things. Focus on organic plant-based food. I already talked about this. Clean meat. And also remember this special note, healthy isn't always healthy. If it says all natural, GMO free, free range, zero trans fats, sugar free, and even organic foods can still be packed with calories and sugar and junk food, refined oils. So educate yourself, read the labels. What's a good oil source? Coconut, unrefined coconut oil, or organic olive oil. There are good sources. Grass-fed butter. I'm okay with that too. Number 5, because God, I didn't have time to talk about this. How God designed us, we are actually created, initially, did you know this? To eat plants. Do you have any biblical texts? I sure do, start in Genesis. Plants. And then after the flood, not after the fall. After the flood, God says, now you may eat anything that runs, moves, the meat. Now, there's a lot to this. Many people speculate, but we don't see the seasons, fall, winter, spring, all these seasons coming until Genesis 8. I have a feeling the earth was in a very good condition, and plant-based food was readily available wherever, where you're at. It was, now, after the fall, after the flood, the landscape's bare. God gives us permission to eat meat because maybe of scarcity. I don't really know. That's why I'm not one to say, no, you can't eat meat. You cannot eat meat, because the Bible also gives a warning, saying, watch out for those people who say you can't eat meat. It's legalistic. But I can say, unless you can eat some very clean meat and not have it very often, I would try to eliminate most of it from your diet. There are some things you can't get zinc, for example, from vegetable. There are some things you can't get from plants only that you can get from meat. So plan ahead. We talked about that. And maybe even move to regular fasting at some point. I'm going to talk about that. And again, make moving a daily discipline. Stay busy in a good way. You have to be strategic about this. You have to stay busy in a good way. Go to the hospital homes. Go minister to people. Hey, how can I help you? Can I help you move? Isn't it funny? Anybody wants to go to Cinemark, we're there. But if I put an email out that says, hey, so a family needs help moving. Except Randy, right? He's always helping families move. I don't know of anybody that's ever helped more families move. But you stay busy. Be strategic. The other day I went to the mall. I parked as far away as I could and I walked around the whole thing. And I felt good because the Bible says how I was designed. And then I saw a couple, God love them, they have a little trailer. Do you know that they make scooters you can kind of sit on like this? And they just rode their scooter around the whole mall. And then they parked it back up on the trailer and got in their car. Guys, those are for people who need them. It might be cool and fun to do, but if that's, go walk in the mall. And both of them needed to walk in the mall. I mean, not joke, just saying that see, that's the problem, our mindset. It's not about being so comfortable, it's about moving more. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the biggie, fasting. Fasting. Why is this so important? Because I think it's how we were created. I think it's a missing element. I think your body, your digestive system, your heart, all these things need a break. Fasting gives the body a break, a big break. Digestive tract, your heart rate even slows down, blood pressure. Do you know during fasting that it will help to clean your arteries? Plaque is removed, cleansing takes place, but if there's no fasting, there's no break. It's always filling up and filling up. Why is heart disease the one of the number one top killers in America? Why are these plaques being clogged up? Look at all this bad cholesterol, bad guy. No, cholesterol, the HDL and the LDL, they're just responding to inflammation in the blood vessel. That's why they're there. They're responding to the inflammation. And now granted, it is clogged with this, but what is the real issue? Moving more, fasting would be important. So for you, if you need help in this, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. There's books available out there, Feasting and Fasting. Feasting and Fasting, I wrote in February after an extended fast and brought in a lot of information. We also have stuff on YouTube, in the description box on YouTube, and also on Facebook we'll put it. So really look at that. That's going to give you a lot more information. But it's not a fad. I think it's important. It's been probably the biggest blessing in my life spiritually, beyond, other than prayer and worship and God's word, of course. But beyond those things, fasting has made one of the biggest differences in my life as far as taking control back of the body, feeling better. Many of you don't know it, but you say, gosh, the sermons, it was so powerful. I attribute that directly to prayer and fasting and being filled with God's Spirit. It's not like I have some great oratory voice, and I listen to myself. I ask my daughter, I turn myself off the radio. I'm like, oh Lord, I can't listen to myself. It doesn't sound that great. So it's through the fasting and prayer though that changes us. That's what I was fasting this week for this type of event and for tomorrow morning service. I hope my voice makes it that long, but it's made the biggest difference in my life. Here's where you need to be encouraged. Take baby steps. Like Shane, you just did 4 days, 5. That's impossible. I can't. Do you know what it started with? It started with a Saturday. Before I was going to preach in the evening, I said, I'm not eating today until after service. And I didn't make it. I didn't make it. I had some orange juice and chips or something, but it was a good service. I didn't, but that was the first step. And then listen, this time, you're not getting me. I'm making it, and I made it. And I felt better. I remember walking around Home Depot. I realized I want to walk around this store 20 times. Where's all this energy coming from? I feel great. And then I went into a 2-day up at the Oaks Retreat Center. Oh, that was a fight from hell. Because the appetite's strong. I didn't bring anything, so that helped. Out of sight, out of mind. But the breakthrough up there, I spoke about this, I think, last Sunday. I just was not having a good breakthrough. It was just, why am I doing this? And once that second day came, worship just brought me to my knees. I was praying and worshiping, and God just flooded my heart, and the changes that made, and the sermon that came out of that, and just those baby steps. So you also don't want to get legalistic and have to do it. I have to do this, I have to do this. No, it's, take it to the Lord. Don't let it become ritualistic. I'll tell you this, not many of you know this, but many of you know that I usually fast, like on weekends, a day before I preach, the whole day. I haven't done that since August. I haven't fasted at all. Since August. Oh, no. But see, But see, listening to the messages, nobody would know because God's been moving. Last Sunday, it's been, so I haven't seen a difference at all in my message. God didn't say, okay, you fasted, now I'm blessing. You fasted, now I'm blessing. No. That's works oriented. That's saying, God, you have to do this. I just want to position my heart and be led by God to do it when he wants me to do it and not get into the system of I have to do it, I'm relying on it. And physically I made a difference. I gained back some of the weight and different things, and it felt pretty good, but it also feels good to fast. You just don't want to get into this, I have to do it type of mentality. Spiritually speaking, fasting, I don't even want to talk about that today. I've got a dozen sermons on the spiritual benefits of fasting you can listen to. But the physical benefits, quickly, disease is often a problem of toxicity, right? We just talked about that. Fasting is a detox solution. Fasting isn't the cure. It only puts your body in a state where it can heal itself. Your body is either in the high insulin fed state or in the low insulin non-fed state. That's what I said earlier. Fasting puts you into that perfect state very quickly. Dr. J.H. Tilden said, after 55 years of sojourning in the wilderness of medical therapeutics, I am forced to declare that fasting is the only reliable, specific therapeutic eliminate known to man. I can read other quotes, but I'm time-wise. Here, let me just tell you a few lies. It's not biblical. Well, it's very biblical, so let's move on. That's just silly. That's somebody who doesn't want to fast. That's not biblical. Oh, it's very biblical. You just don't want to fast. So Ezra and Esther and Nehemiah, it's silly. Not healthy. It's very healthy. You are starving yourself. You're not starving yourself at all. You're actually switching modes of fuel. You're switching from carbohydrates into ketosis, ketone bodies as fuel. So it's very healthy. You're not starving yourself. You will lose too much muscle. No, remember, it's protein sparing. This is why there is a creator, obviously. We are not here because of random chance and evolving from some monkey. There is a creator that said protein sparing. You need protein. You don't need fat. So your body begins to work off of the fat. So during fasting, you will lose a little bit of muscle, I believe, because protein can be converted to fuel as well. But protein sparing occurs. There's been studies where the muscle mass remains nearly the same. And the fat becomes the primary source of energy during fasting, so you don't lose a lot of muscle. I remember Dr. Yuri, I've told you this before, from the University of Moscow, treated schizophrenics with water fast only for 25 to 30 days, followed by healthy eatings for 30 days. 70% of his patients remained free from symptoms for the duration of the 6-year study. Did you catch that? That's a big deal. So people suffering with schizophrenia, they're suffering. There are solutions. I'm not saying that's always the answer. There could be demonic elements. I'm not naive, but my Lord, let's get back to the basics. Jesus fasted. Now the spiritual needs to be the foundation. And I don't like when people say sometimes, well, weight loss should not be my focus. Sometimes it should be. That's like the alcoholic saying, I'm not getting off alcohol is not my focus. Oh, it should be. Not the priority, but weight loss should be a focus. As always, you want to seek medical support and consultation, but they're not going to be on your side usually. That's why I usually tell them, here's what I'm doing. Would you monitor my blood in 10 days and see my HD. I've learned to read my blood test now, so I can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And during fasting, your growth hormone increases. Oh, that doesn't sound good. It's really good. Do you know what aging is related to? Decline in growth hormone. So growth hormone increases during fasting. Health, vitality. That's why people are getting HGH shots, human growth hormone shots, because as they're getting older, to increase that vitality and the energy. There's a natural way of doing that. Again, glucagon is raised up as well. Well, how long should I do it? What's your goal? And as Christians, I believe we just pray and we say, okay, Lord, how long do you want me to go? I remember when I did a 9-day water fast. I wrote about it in the fasting book. One day I crashed and had a smoothie, 200-calorie protein mix with some water because I was going to couldn't get to sleep, and one day I had some nuts, 8 cashew nuts, so hardcore people are going to say, that's not water only. Well, I went 9 days on 500 calories. That's 900. That's close, pretty close. Anyway, I write about that, and my point was on that. What was my point on that? Oh, I didn't know how long I was going, but Sunday after the service, I just felt a total release and said, oh, I'm done. I'm going home to eat. You have to be careful after that many days. You can't just start eating. You have to fruit, some juice, and kind of wean back into it after a few days. What I wanted to get to quickly before this is coming to an end is something called autophagy. Have you heard of that? Autophagy. Autophagy, it comes from Greek words, consuming self. This is kind of, I wish I had time to explain this, but I'm not going to have a lot of time to explain this. Basically, when a cell is hungry, when a cell is in a fasting state, autophagy takes place and autophagozones are released. And what they do is they consume the dead and the decaying and the diseased tissue. Cancer come to mind? Tumors? Fat? So autophagy, there's actually a Nobel Prize won in 2016. You can research this for his study on autophagy. It's a Chinese man's name. And it begins to, your body begins to consume itself in a good way. This is released and it begins to consume all the dead tissue, the dying tissue, the decaying tissue. But we've been taught over the years, I had to really change this mentality. In the fitness industry, I was taught, don't fast, you're going to lose muscle, it's bad for you, you're going to die. But how, I'm even standing here before you today, 5 days fasting, other than eating last night, water only, and I have tons of energy. I could keep preaching another hour. You're not going to die. Your body was designed to do that. That's how God created us. Now, guess what the key is to autophagy? What is this key? Fasting and releases autophagy. That's what the biggest study, that's what they found. The biggest study realized that fasting releases this mechanism of autophagy. And glucagon, the hormone, the good one that gets rid of fat, raises up during this time. So see, now you see how we were created, seasons of fasting, or even 12, 15 hours of not eating. Sometimes people, and the body would heal itself. And now we're just constantly in a fed state. I don't know about you, but when I eat dinner, I can be hungry 3 hours later for something sweet. And then I wake up 2 in the morning, something sweet. I get back up in the morning, have my coffee, something again. You're in a constant fed state. There's no break. There's nothing. You're in that constant state, and the body's saying, stop, please. And then finally, fasting. Yeah, by fasting. How to get back on track? By fasting. Incorporate that into your, I would even encourage people to try it 1 day a week. It's very healthy. Do the research on it. 1 day a week. Many people have done it quarterly, for a week every quarter. You say, Shane, that sounds extreme. Actually, you're going to save a lot of money and feel a lot better. The first couple days are a little difficult, but then you get to day 3, 4, 5 where you're not hungry. You think, I actually made dinner for my kids or made them something to eat. And it was like, yeah, I could eat, but here's the misconception. I'm going to turn into an animal because I'm going to get hungrier and hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. The reason you get hungry is because gremlin is released. It's a hunger hormone that tells your body, hey, you're hungry. And that gremlin can be suppressed and held down and held back. But as a final thing, what I want to do is bring this back to this point of falling forward. Always fall forward. The body clearly points to a creator. Our body clearly points to a creator. Now, this might not apply to many of you, but I know many watching later it will. Do you have a relationship with the Creator? Do you know Him? That's more important because so many people are so wise. They know 10 times more than I do about the body and physiology and kinesiology and structural fitness training and core stabilization training and keto diets, and they know so much. But they don't know their Creator. They're lost spiritually. So I want to encourage people this morning, if they're hearing this, to change that. The Bible says repent and believe in God, your Creator. Repent and believe in Christ who died on the cross. That's the priority. That's the priority. Then from that, health, is secondary or third or wherever you put it. From that right foundation. So don't run from God, run to him. Stop, look at evolution. It's impossible. How can autophagy take place in the glucose assimilation and the neurotransmitters? And it's a mystery. It's absolutely amazing. The eye, the mental capabilities of the brain, the neuroplasticity, and all this just happened? Did all this just happen? Oh, of course not. Somebody had to make, well, how much more the human body? No, we know somebody made this. Unless you think this is going to happen in a million years, of course not. Obviously, a creator made this body. Seasonal eating, again, whatever works for you. I think it's part of the diet concept. Eat according to the season. But, biblically it makes a little sense if there's fruit in this season. But you have to find what works for you. I can't do it because I like fruit all year round at certain strawberries or blueberries or bananas. Yeah. Fasting and working out. Fasting, working out. That's a good question. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I did not work out. And you have to read your body. Fasting, usually I would recommend not working out during fasting. I would just focus on relaxing. I did walk. I walked around some neighborhoods and got out, breathed the fresh air and got out and walked and moved. But physical exertion, exercise, you don't have to do. Now, some people continue their exercise routine. So I would do whatever you can based on how you feel. If I feel good and I have energy, then I'm definitely going to work out. Thought is it'll help obviously speed up fat loss if that's your goal. But many times for fasting, our goal is not fat loss, it's spiritual. But yes, you can work out during fasting if you want to go that route. I don't eat anything before I work out, but some people do. I used to think I had hypoglycemia. Come to find out I was addicted to sugar. So once I got rid of the sugar, I still have a little bit of sugar, but once I got rid of that, I don't have the hypoglycemia issue. But some people have to eat something before they work out. It depends, again, what the goals are. I would have something where it's easily assimilated and quick, like a protein smoothie or some fruit or something that's quick source of glycogen, quick source of energy. And again, there's different theories on that. That's the problem with something like this, is everybody has their own opinion. And the bottom line is how were we created? If you don't feel good and you have to eat something, then eat something like a quick source of energy, which would be fruit or something that makes you feel a little bit better. Almond milk in smoothies is a great idea. However, there's some articles that just came out on, they've been filling a lot of the almond milk with emulsifiers. It's not the almond milk, it's the thickening agent. So if you're getting almond milk, you should get organic, good almond milk. Or make it at home. It's kind of a pain in the you-know-what. I've tried it before. I'm like, this takes too long. Cashew milk, though, I think is good. You can let cashews soak and then just whip them in a blender. A quick way to get some almond milk, if you like that, is I buy organic almond butter. And then I'll take a tablespoon of almond butter, mix it in the blender with some water, and that becomes my almond milk, and then put in the protein powder and maybe frozen bananas. Type 1 diabetes is not health related. It is where their body cannot produce insulin. So in that case, yes, you obviously have to take insulin. Are you talking about what type of diet? Fasting. And well, that again, that's why I mentioned earlier with seeking some medical advice or somebody well versed in the area of type 1 diabetes and fasting. But I think as long as the medication is good, and if you can continue taking maybe a smaller amount of food that can keep that insulin level regulated, then that might be okay. It doesn't have to be an absolute fast if it's not going to work for their medical condition. You can kind of alter that a little bit. Low fat, body fat, yeah, that's a good question, because there are studies you can look up where a person, actually the longest water fast ever recorded is over a year on water only at the University of Scotland. Look it up, over a year, 450 pounds down to 180, didn't gain much of that back. But there's also studies where somebody who is underweight, they fast, they do lose weight, but there's a shift that takes place, and because they clean their body and gets healthy, and when they start resuming again, they actually start to put on 10, 15, 20 more pounds than they had initially, because the fasting was a mechanism that awakened that cleaning process, and the cells were rejuvenated and cleaned again, and the body began to build on top of that. So Brett, real quick. Yeah, vitamins, that's a good question. On supplements too, if you're going to take supplements, there should be raw, organic, healthy types of vitamins that are unprocessed, not heated, not fillers, not binders. You know, those hard, popular vitamins at Costco, probably not a good idea. You probably have to get the ones that's encapsulated. Sometimes hard is not necessarily bad as long as they're not heated, there's not fillers, there's not binders, there's not chemicals. But supplementation is important, and that would be a whole nother hour on that. But I think if you can get the vitamins, like you mentioned, the greens, if you can get them in their raw, natural, straight barley grass, wheatgrass, spirulina, and you have these in the tablets, they haven't been damaged, they haven't been altered in any way. Probiotics are another good thing. Probiotics for life. Antibiotics that they like to prescribe all the time means anti, against life. Anti-life. So antibiotics kill everything good in your body. Probiotics help to resaturate and rebuild up that the good bacteria. Actually, if you're taking antibiotics, it's good to stack them with probiotics. So as they're killing the bad, you're putting in the new. But it'd be good to get with a nutritionist to kind of work out that plan as well. Fish is good if you can eat fish. Salmon, farm-raised salmon. Genetically modified, the food they give them. The worst thing on the planet right now is shrimp. As far as they eat their own feces and they're bottom feeders, and it's just a very, very dirty food. I think God knew what He's doing when He said avoid shellfish for that very reason. Lobster, crab, shrimp. It's dirty because they're bottom feeders. They eat the toxic elements of the ocean. And then God said only thing with scales. So I do have tuna at home. If you can get fresh caught tuna. Try to get as clean as possible. There's some that, you can get crazy on this stuff. Like there's places that you buy the tuna directly from them. They've already been tested to have no mercury. Well, I don't want a $10 can of tuna. It's hard. But yeah, fish I think is good. You get the omega-6, omega-3 fatty acids in those. And so fish is a good idea for sure. It's just where do you get it from? How often? What do you cook it in? Things like that. The China study, I think that's what they used in forks over knives. There are both sides. I've known people who can poke a lot of holes in it, but I also think there's some benefit in looking at what they ate in that study. It was a long study on cancer patients and where the casein and whey products. But I would have a lot of questions, even when I had Ellsworth or whatever, I don't remember his name, not Ellsworth. One of the doctors in Forks Over Nine, I had him on the phone. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but I only had 3 minutes. But where did they get their dairy that they studied? On Forks Over Knives and different things. But the China project, I don't have enough information on it because I've seen both sides. There's people who have poked holes in it, but then there's people who say it's very valid and shows that the eating patterns, basically, I think that was mainly whole grains, right? Plant-based, not a lot of meat and dairy. And the study proved that the cancer rate in that is significantly less. But that could take another half hour, explain the dynamics or what's taking place. What's the living conditions? For example, we all hear about the Mediterranean diet, right? And off the island of I think it was Crete, Sicily. But they forgot to take into account to let us know that those people also incorporate fasting. So they're on a Mediterranean diet with fasting. Oh, forgot about that one. So the China study, I'd have to look into a little bit more, but I think it was mainly focused on plant-based and what the movie's Forks Over Knives is kind of based upon. So I always lean towards whole, plant-based, God-given, life-giving food and minimal meat and dairy. Unless, again, if you need to drastically lose some weight, I think it's good to go in and take a couple months to get off carbohydrates and limit those carbohydrates and be strategic about how you're handling your diet. Regular peanut butter, I would try to avoid it. I would, if possible, try to switch over to organic almond butter. It doesn't taste good, so what you have to do is mix it with the peanut butter. Like I did with the kids, I mix it with the peanut butter. Oh, they don't even know. Eventually, they're eating mainly almond butter. But that would take a little while. The peanuts, especially if it's not organic peanut butter, you could go, if you're going to do it, get organic peanut butter. Peanuts can be GMO now, genetically modified. Sometimes, like if people buy nuts, on the back of nuts, it will say canola oil. Why is there canola oil on my nuts? To have the salt stick to it. So now you're taking in refined oil in addition to your nuts, in addition to salt. It's probably not the good salt. You need the sea salt that's full of nutrient. See, the table salt we buy has been stripped, a lot of it's stripped of the vital electrolytes, the minerals, and we just have this white flavor. You got to get to the good stuff that clumps up a little. It's okay to clump. That's why they get rid of, they create table salt to get rid of the clumps and to make it more user-friendly. So did that answer your question? So yeah, if you're going to do peanut butter, get organic peanut butter. But then try to buy some almond butter and switch it. Do half and half. And maybe not have it be a staple. Fermented foods are very good. I would recommend that as often as possible. Fermented goes back even past biblical, or not past biblical, but past Jesus' time in Egypt and different things, different studies have come out where that's how they would preserve their food, is they would by fermenting it. And fermentation is an interesting process where it actually releases more digestive enzymes that are healthy for the body, healthy for the gut, natural probiotics from fermented food, sauerkraut, fermented fruit. I think we have somebody next door selling fermented food, and I'm buying some of it and some of the salsa and different things that are natural. So fermented, absolutely, especially if you get it from a good source. The fake meat industry kind of rose up. You'll see in there a lot like soy or tofu, and I would probably agree like Dr. Axe, if you ever watch him, he's very knowledgeable. Love to get him here. But you know, not all soy and tofu is bad. 90% of it is, but if you can find organic soy, tofu that hasn't been genetically modified, hasn't been damaged, it's natural God-given soybeans that haven't been damaged in any way. Those aren't necessarily bad for you, but you don't want to have a lot because it has been known to release and encourage estrogen production, and even in men. And people even developing gynecomastia. I don't know if you know what gynecomastia is, but it can develop, estrogen can build up here, and a man can start to look like he has breasts like a female because of gynecomastia. And that comes from estrogen, too much estrogen. Happens when you take steroids as well. And then there's something that you have to take from urine of a pregnant woman to help get rid of the gynecomastia. Anyway, too much for you. But what was it? What was the question? The fake meats. I would avoid those fake meats, those fake foods. Try to make them yourself. You can make good, like last night, I've got them at home. It's a big cookie. I took oatmeal, I took manuka honey, I took some carob, I took a little bit of salt, a crushed up, blended a banana all together. It's this big black mess with walnuts in it. I cooked it. It's a wonderful tasting cookie. See, that was all. And I would rather choose that over donut any day because now it's too sweet. Your body changes and adapts. So the encouragement is you can get back to that. You can change the body. It's going to be a battle. Today we fight. That's the message of the title of my sermon tomorrow. Today we fight, but it is relevant here as well. We've got to fight for these things. They're so important in our lives. What kind of protein powder? Well, I was with Garden of Life. Jordan Rubin, who founded that, actually should thank me. Because I rejected the publisher's offer to publish my book, What Works When Diets Don't, in 2002, and they picked his book instead, The Maker's Diet. So, looking back, but anyway, I couldn't be an organic farmer and do what he does, so the best, if you can get whey, clean whey, if you're going to stick with, whey comes from, more dairy, but I stick with plant-based or organic, if it's plant-based organic protein powder, but they just sold, Garden of Life just sold to Nestle a while back, so I'm hoping Nestle doesn't try to put any fast ones in there, but we'll be watching. People are going to be watching. So anyway, yes, and protein powder, homemade almond milk, put some manuka honey or regular honey in it with a banana and a scoop of protein powder. That is really good. I'll take that over an In-N-Out chocolate shake any day. And people laugh, oh, you're crazy. No, it's because whatever you choose to obey becomes your master. You start to crave the things that are good for the body. The body wants more of it. Now, I didn't say I don't like In-N-Out chocolate shake. But you begin to crave those things. Organic lemons. Yeah, how important is it to, yeah, well, that's a good point. Because sometimes, for example, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I was hungry and I stopped by, they didn't have organic bananas. I got a regular banana. This isn't stuff, it's not hills to die on. It's trying to make good decisions most of the time. I definitely avoid the blueberries, strawberries, where the pesticide is sprayed right on them. Lemons can possibly be genetically modified in the future, but if you just have regular lemons, it's not a hill to die on, but I would choose organic if possible, because then you also have the idea, is the lemon sprayed? Because a lot of people cut the lemon, and what do? So I just put a lot of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides right in my drink. And if I do that on a daily basis regularly, it could do some damage. Intermittent fasting. Yeah, the difference is intermittent fasting is different than regular fasting in this way. Intermittent means just what the word means, short term. I'm going to do this short term. Where when somebody says, I'm going on a water fast, it's probably a 2-day, 3-day, whatever, water fasting or juice. I don't call it a Daniel fast, because fasting to me is you're fasting. You're not having anything. I call it a Daniel eating plan or juice feasting. But if you call it fasting, that's okay. But intermittent fasting is where you're giving your body a break. You don't have to eat every 4, 5, 6 hours or 3 hours, from 2 hours for some people. So intermittent fasting is, okay, I ate last night at 7, sleeping. Okay, I get up, I usually get up at 4 in the morning, depending, I don't know what time I go to bed. But okay, you just have 8 hours, 9 hours of fasting, right? Because that's why it's called breakfast. So you have 8 hours, and then now do I go right for my coffee and donuts or boxed cereal or eggs with white bread, or do I continue to allow the body to clean it? See, the longer you fast, this is one thing I don't like about fasting. The longer you water fast, the more health results you will see. There's places you can go in Costa Rica, right up the coast here, 30 days. They stay there 30 days on water fast only because the healing is so deep. But you can't get to a point where it's too much. You've crossed a line to where now, your teeth might be being loose, your body's just, okay, that's enough, get back on food. So it's hard to find that balance. But intermittent fasting is giving your body a break. They recommend at least 12 hours. So if you eat, last meal is at 7 at night, 7 in the morning would be your next. At minimum, but most are saying now 16 to 18 hours is giving your body a good break before it needs to eat again. Once you get to 24 hours, that's a full day's fast. So they probably don't consider that intermittent fasting anymore. Now, after you cross that 1-day mark, now you're going into a longer term water fast only. And you can research all this. There's tons of studies out there on what they've done on humans, on athletes, on moms, on dads, just regular people, on the benefits of fasting and how better you do feel. It's interesting because you feel terrible the first couple days. And you feel, now, tell you the truth, at 6 this morning, I wanted to eat. And I was not in a good mood for 30 minutes. Because your flesh wants to negotiate. Come on. Oh, it doesn't matter. Just have that little healthy cookie that's sitting in the refrigerator. I saw it this morning. But I said, no, I'm going to intermittent fast. Because I feel better. I can go longer. My body feels a lot better. So food really weighs us down. We were designed to burn this, not carry it. If you get stomach pain, real strong stomach pain while fasting, I usually recommend that you eat something. You don't, because you're not going to feel good when you fast, but there are signs your body will give you. I don't know why that would be happening. Hunger can sometimes hurt a little bit, but if it's pain, yeah. Oh, it's after the hunger. Yeah, I would maybe talk to somebody who's an expert in that field, because until you just told me that question, I have never heard that. And I've talked to hundreds of people that have fasted, that there's this tremendous, that's almost not a good sign to have a lot of pain after the hunger fades. It's almost maybe something that digestion, they probably have to take a look at your diet and different things. But we can introduce you to Marguerite afterwards too. Maybe she could help you a little bit more. I just didn't want to give you the wrong information on that. For those listening, we just heard from somebody who had stage 4 lymphoma in the lymph nodes. And that's not, easy to get rid of. And this isn't a cure-all, because, You can't just do this and you get rid of cancer as a magic pill. I mean, we just don't know. But what you're doing is if the toxic environment caused the disease, now you're putting your body back in a fighting pattern by fasting, autophagy, and now you're going after the disease as fuel. Because the body will start to consume the cancer cells. Your body is so smart. Did you know your body could start to eat your heart? Your lungs? It's fuel. It could. But there's a creator that says, no, go after the dead and decaying tissue. Go after that of least importance first. Because when your body truly gets into starvation, you see the pictures of people truly starving, their body is starting to eat vital organs. It's starting to pull from. That's the last thing to go. It will go after that as the final area for fuel. So that's why I think the body screams creator. Look at how this is so wonderfully and masterfully made. I read that somewhere too. Psalm, David said it, my body is wonderfully and masterfully made. Let me just give you a closing thought. I don't want people to leave here, and you can ask my wife, my kids, I don't want people to feel beat up and they have to be perfect and they can never, everything I talked about, I probably blow it weekly. You know, we have Christmas dinner, you think I'm asking what they used? And so we can't get this obsession, but we can be stewards. We can be good, we can be wise, and we can make a lot better. See, here's what I tell people. You're going to start making 80% better choices instead of 80% bad choices. That's when you tilt the scale. And what I like about this is now there's motivation. The reason a Krispy Kreme, my cookie seems better, the reason the other thing sounds better, the chocolate shake and not the In-N-Out burger, is because I'm going in a forward momentum. I've got motivation at my back. I feel better about that. And actually, fasting is great for weight loss. I've lost 7 pounds in this week alone from Monday. 7 pounds. Now you should gain 3 to 4 of that back. You should gain about half back and be able to maintain that and then keep moving forward. So it's wonderful for fat loss. It's wonderful for autophagy. But at the heart of it all for Christians, fasting should be a spiritual discipline. It's very good to starve the flesh and to be filled with the Spirit of God. So I've talked about that for years, and you can find sermons on that. So let me just close it out. And if you need anything, let me know. I'll be up here for a little bit. Marguerite is in the back. She's a nutritionist I had come. You can ask her some of the questions. We've got food next door. Hopefully we made a lot, because there's a lot more people than we were planning on, which is a good thing. So, Lord, as we conclude this, I pray that people do not leave here defeated. They leave here convicted and built up and strengthened. I pray that our online listeners even would begin to get back their strength. I pray for emotional healing, for physical healing, for mental healing. Lord, you begin to heal the body when we begin to steward it correctly again. And we pray that you would bless that food next door and nourish our bodies in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.